Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm going to use my notes. I have been speaking here, I think, for quite a few years, and this has to be the most challenging topic for me to have explored, researched, and personally kind of like take my inventory around. Freedom is, for me, especially in a time now in our culture where we have an epidemic of fear that is everywhere we look, a separation between the us and the thems, and so many ways that we see that played out in our global community. I chose the title of my talk today, "The Definition of Happiness is Freedom," because there is nothing more that we want in this earth experience than to be happy, right? Everything we choose on a daily basis is to feel happiness. If the definition of happiness is freedom, then what is the definition of freedom? And so I explored, and what I found, the definition of freedom is courage and bravery, because it's not easy to be free. I have a quote by Albert Camus. "Freedom is not a reward or a decoration that is celebrated with champagne. Oh no, it's a long-distance race, quite solitary and very exhausting." So what are the obstacles, right, to freedom? I found three definitions. There's thousands, but three that I felt that were appropriate for the talk today. The first one from the Western tradition and the dictionary. What is freedom? The power or right to act, speak, or think as one wants without hindrance or restraints. Almost the exact words of the First Amendment. The Eastern definition of freedom. The relinquishment of attachments to achieve the highest degree of love. The purest form of love, because it isn't about what others can give you because you feel empty. It is about what you can give others because you are already full. The Course in Miracles definition of freedom. Our freedom is not guaranteed by our Constitution. The only thing that guarantees our freedom ultimately is our own commitment to it. That commitment must include our capacity to love ourselves, to love other human beings, to give up judgments of self, big one, and others, also big, that separates us, to remember we are brothers and sisters on this planet, and to surrender to God anything contrary to this belief. Wow, what a responsibility. While I was getting ready this morning, one of those attachments showed up for me. And all the women in this room can probably relate to this. Try to guess how many times I changed my dress. A dozen. Okay, all those dresses are still sitting on my bed. Because I was raised with the belief that my body weight was the appropriate body weight, was how I got accepted. And it was given to me at a very early age. And for a very long time, still today, it still controls what I think and how I think you're going to see me. So the definition in yoga, which is the path that I choose, is the definition of suffering, which is lack of freedom, is attachments to people, places, and things. So I'm going to start with the easy one. You ready for it? How do you feel about your attachments? Do you even know what they are? Right? Well, let's do an experiment together. I'm going to pass around a hat, and I want you to symbolically, because my son told me it would be too confusing if I had you do this. You might think I'm scamming you. That's my 11-year-old. I want you to imagine you're putting in your car keys, that you are relinquishing right now your cars. People, places, and things. So, Nick, pass around the hat. And I want you to just imagine when you walk out of the service today, your car is gone. And not only is your car gone, you're not going to get another car. You can't, like right now, get another car. And I want you to see, if you sit back in that love and in that spiritual connection that you have, how the attachment, what happens to the attachment? Does it make you contract or does it make you free? You can live without a car. I have lived without a car. I've lived without a car on the east end of Long Island. And I have to tell you that when I was carless, I had to ask more for help, and it was a very humbling experience for me and connected me more to spirit. Now, I don't have to lose my car to be connected to spirit, but I get to see that it's one of many attachments to things that we have. And the nicer the car, the harder it is to give up. In fact, recently, my son said to me, you know, Ma, our car's getting really old. It sounds like it has arthritis. And I said, I'm waiting so that when I get a new one, I'm really going to appreciate it. Okay, so now, second thing you're going to put in that hat, probably a little bit more challenging. Now I want you to put in that hat the keys to your home. Okay, so energetically in that hat, with your car keys, I want you to put the keys to your home. And those of you who have multiple homes, I want all of them. Because you can live without a home. I have lived without a home. I've been homeless. I've lived in shelters. I have lived on people's couches. I've had to ask. And during that period in my life, it made me incredibly humble and brave. I don't have to lose my home to be free, but having a home creates more of an attachment. You ready for the third one? And notice as I say this, what it feels like energetically to give up your attachments. Third one, you're going to put in that hat your bank accounts, your mutual funds, your stocks, your inheritance, so that you can feel what a lot of Americans and a lot of people in this country live with on a daily basis. I have lived without a bank account. I have been bankrupt. I have had no money. And I've had to ask for support. And I have to tell you, when I claimed bankruptcy, this is years ago, and I wasn't allowed, I lost the privilege of having to use credit cards. It was one of the most powerful, freeing times of my life, because I just didn't have to think, do I want to buy this? Don't I want to buy this? I just didn't buy it. And I have to tell you, the simplification of that made me happier. Do I have to lose my money to be spiritually free? I don't. But the more I have, and we see that in our country particularly, the harder it is to let go of it. So those were easy ones. You agree? Quick little story. One of my favorite authors is John Robbins. He is the author of Diet for a New America and my favorite book, The Good Life. He was born the heir to Baskin and Robbins. And at some time in his beginning college years, he realized that his family was promoting heart disease, that there was a correlation between the ingredients that were in their ice cream and heart disease. And he went to his father and said, his father and his uncle owned the business, and he said, we're promoting illness. And they said, so what? We're making money. He disinherited himself at the age of 22, moved to an island off of the coast of Vancouver, and lived with his wife, and they lived on $1,000 a year. They lived a very simple life. He wrote the book. He was inspired to write the book, Diet for a New America, all about the ways that we get our food that most of us are disassociated from, the violent way that we get our food. And he became wealthy. And he started on his own. He started to have money come into him. He had a child who was part of his foundation. And his son and his daughter-in-law had twins that were born with special needs. They needed a lot of care and a lot of resources. So the money that the foundation made provided a lot of support for these kids. A few weeks, I don't know what year it was, he got a letter saying that all his inheritance, all his money that he had made himself was dissolved because he invested in Madoff, and he lost all his money. He was devastated. So now here he was in the same position he had been before, only it was different because his life was different. And the book he wrote is all about that perception we have about lack. So let's go to the big subjects. People. The hardest attachment I have found in my research, in my own life, and in talking to others and reading about it, is the attachment that we have to each other. In fact, a lot of those things are symbolic of the people. The hardest of people are our children. My spiritual teacher says, nothing will put you on your knees faster than the loss or suffering of your child or a child. And I know without a doubt in my own life, the thought of something happening to my son puts me on my knees just thinking about it. And if I have to lose some sense of freedom because of that, I'm willing to do that because I'm just not ready, work in progress, to let go of that attachment I have on my son. I have a sister and a brother-in-law who lost a child, and to me, those are heroic beings that can move through life with that level of loss. One of the things that I know for sure about freedom is that it is in our DNA. We come from absolute freedom, that universal consciousness. And it's so interesting, we come from that to become dependent. Right? What were we thinking when we came here? Right? Pure bliss to dependency. And I know that because infants are dependent 100% of the time. If we don't take care of a baby, the baby's going to die. And in that experience of reconnecting with our independence, we actually expand the freedom of the universe. So we come here to create a greater expanded universe. We are made of freedom. It is our natural birthright. And I found this quote: "The power of human empathy leading to collective action saves lives and frees those in bondage." In 1988, in Alaska, Point Barren, Alaska, 3 gray whales got stuck because the water froze quicker than they got to the ocean. And a native American in Alaska saw that and they said it to like the local news. And they did a little news report about it. It became so global that the entire world became fascinated with freeing these whales. The Greenpeace, the conservative oil companies became one in the need of something. Because it's hard to look at something in oppression and not want to free them. I mean, Mary said that in her prayer. It's like freedom is to give it. Because if you're not free, I'm not free. If a whale's not free, I'm not free. It was a global community that came together. In fact, at that point, the Russians even helped us. On August 5th, 2010, a copper gold mine in Chile collapsed, trapping 33 men underground with more than 2,000 feet of rock in the way. I know you all remember this. They made a movie about it. They made a movie about the whale, too. For 69 days, people from all over the world worked globally to save them. And every single one of those men were saved by global support because we do not like oppression. These men, these Chilean men that were rescued, have now reached out currently to the soccer team in Thailand. Currently, right now, while we sit, there are young four kids. So I don't know what that means, but that got me off track, but I'll come back. Say, whoa, so easy, right? Those men, though, are reaching out because no one understands more than they do what it's like to be trapped and what to focus on. There's nothing worse than oppression. And the hardest attachment to let go of is our children. So recently, for me, the whole immigration issue has become a very important message for me about oppression and about solidarity and community, right? In the last, I think, 6 months, we've had two of the biggest nonviolent protests. The one was for safe arms that the kids created. I think it was in March. And recently, the one about immigration, right? About the separating of families. So I want you all to imagine, here you are, someone who's oppressed, coming from a country that there is civil war, poverty, violence. Make a pilgrimage that is not easy. Talk about bravery. Coming to some place that you believe is going to help you with your freedom. To get to the border and be told that your child, take your child and told that you may never see your child again. Can you imagine the trauma and pain that we have created in our country? Freedom, right? Freedom. The most important birthright we have. So when the Course in Miracles says our freedom is not guaranteed by the Constitution, I agree. But I also believe that we need to practice the Constitution, and we need to have a voice for those that are oppressed. Because if we didn't, first of all, this room would only be filled with men. The women, we would have to have our own service. You know, it wasn't too long ago that in England, they passed a law the size of the stick that you could hit your wife with. I'm not joking. This is in the last, 100 years, right? We didn't get the vote until 1920, right? 1920, right? So, yes, The Constitution isn't going to give me my freedom. God is. But you know that I will march and practice for those that are oppressed, because I know what it's like not to be free. I mean, I felt that this morning just trying on clothes. The attachment to judgments. Gabby Bernstein just wrote a new book, and she's one of the translators of the Course in Miracles, and she wrote a book talking about her own experience in the last few years. It's called Detox Judgments. And I believe one of the biggest attachments we have, epidemic levels, right? That epidemic of fear is the judgments that we carry in our own mind that says that we are not good enough. One of my favorite teachers said for many years, I like you just the way you are. And that's Fred Rogers. Every show he said that, I like you just the way you are. So children in that time, if they weren't hearing it at home, and probably weren't, they heard it every day from this man who believed it. He did it subtle, he did it with that small whisper, and he did it powerfully. Right? We are loved beyond our wildest dreams. Yet we have belief systems that have told us the contrary. I'll be lovable when I'm thin, when I'm rich, when I'm young, blah, 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 blah. The list goes on. I have a beautiful poem I'd like to read and end with about freedom. The title is We Have Come to Be Danced. We have come to be danced, not the pretty dance, not the pretty, pretty pick-me dance, but the claw our way back to the belly of the sacred, sensual animal dance, the unhinged, unplugged cat is out of the box dance, the holding the precious moment in our palms of our hands and feet dance. For we have come to be danced, not the jiffy booby, shake your booty for him dance, but the wring the sadness from our skin dance, the blow the chip off your shoulder dance, the slap the apology from my posture dance, for we have come to be danced. Not the monkey see, monkey do dance, one to dance like you, dance like me, but the grave robber, tomb stalker, tearing scabs and scarbs open dance, the rub the rhythm raw against our soul dance. For we have come to be danced, not the nice, invisible, self-conscious shuffle, but the matted hair flying voodoo mama, shaman shaking, ancient bones dance. The strip us from our castings, our bondage, return our wings dance. The shed our dead sails and slip into the luminous skin of love dance. For we've come to be danced, not the hold our breath and wallow in the shallow end of the floor dance, but the meeting of the Trinity and beating down the wall dance, the shout hallelujah dance from the top of our thighs dance. The mother may I, yes you may take 10 giant steps dance, the oily, oily oxen free, free, free dance, the everyone goes to heaven dance. We have come to be danced where the kingdoms collide in the cathedral of flesh, to burn back into light, to unravel, to play, to fly, and to pray, to root in skin sanctuary, for we have come to be danced when we have come and we are free. Thank you.